So while I was still at the pet sit and working on the van, I actually filmed an unboxing video for the Cooluli fridge. I wanted to do it while I had a house and I could expand out and I could test it on house power. So I'm going to give you a look at that first, and then we'll check back in about how it's doing. All right, so enjoy the unboxing and the initial test. So here's the deal. I'm trading this for this. Why? Lately I've been having a lot of food go bad. I mean, obviously most people want a fridge, but the problem is to have a fridge, you have to have the power to run it. I don't have solar. I don't have a really powerful power bank. I don't have a deep cycle battery. I don't have a lithium battery. I don't have any sort of system in my van that can handle anything with a huge power pull. On top of that, not only is solar expensive, not only do batteries start to add up, not only was I not 100% sure, no matter how many videos I watched, what other items I needed and how to hook them up. Like, I didn't feel comfortable that I could do that myself in the short amount of time I had to do a massive build on the van. So instead, I invested in this Coolio, which is technically a Thermoelectric Cooler warmer. It looks like a fridge. I wanted to do the job of a fridge, but technically it's a Thermoelectric Cooler warmer, which will be replacing this, which is your generic igloo cooler. This is a 15-liter cooler, which is technically the same size as this fridge. So let's take it out and see how they actually compare, like, size-wise. Big. Alright, that's going down. Styrofoam. Alright, so there we are. There's the back, since that's what's facing you guys first. And there's the front. What I love about this is the front is a whiteboard, which means I could use this to, like, for whiteboard stuff. I've wanted a whiteboard in the van. I used to have a really little cheap one, but it kept falling down, and there's really, sorry, you can't even see my face, no good place to mount a whiteboard in the minivan. Because it's not a cargo van, it doesn't have a lot of flat metal walls. Or flat metal surfaces. So even the whole thing of a lot of, like, van lifers, like, live by the idea of using magnets as sort of attachments, but really because I'm in a minivan, it doesn't work out too well. So let's open the Coolio up. So that's the inside of the Coolio. And this is the inside of my 15-liter cooler. They aren't really that different in size. Like, this looks almost the same size. If you put the backs against each other, almost the same size. So really, by getting rid of this and getting a 15-liter Thermoelectric Cooler warmer, I'm taking up about the same amount of space. I like that this has a handle, by the way. Let's close them. So that's the size comparison of the 15-liter cooler to the 15-liter Coolio. And yes, I'll be giving this away or donating it. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it. And so the back of the Coolio here has a few buttons for us. It has a cold and a warm button. Like I said, this is a Thermoelectric Cooler warmer. It's not actually a refrigerator in the traditional sense. I'm only a little nervous about this because, like, these are basically for you to take a trip or for short-term such situations for cooling or warming. It's not really meant to be used as a 24-hour fridge, but a lot of the reviews I saw on Amazon, people were using it to keep milk cool in a company break room. People were using it to keep baby milk in a nursery. People were using it at times where medicines needed to be kept cool, in addition to camping and other more traditional uses for mini Thermoelectric cooler warmers. It is advertised sort of as a fridge, but it's not really a fridge by any means. And the thing is, sometimes when these things malfunction, the heating, I notice a lot of these thermoelectric coolers, people buy them specifically for the refrigeration more than the heating. The idea is like it can keep items cool or it can keep items hot. It is not intended to make something cold. That being said, I saw a review of a smaller Coolio unit where somebody put a warm soda in there, and it took a little bit longer than a fridge, but eventually it was cold. And the base idea is I want to be able to buy cold things and keep them chilled. Obviously, this is small. I can't buy it at a high volume, but I bought even less for the cooler because if I was going to put ice in it, the ice was going to take up a certain amount of space, which isn't a problem with the Thermoelectric cooler as long as it's working the way it's supposed to. And the other thing was I was buying salads at one point, and it was great. I could buy salad. I didn't even have to put ice in the cooler, and I could keep everything like medium enough. Enough. Let me use words. That it was staying good long enough as long as that was my next series of meals, and I didn't eat anything but the salad. Recently, it's been getting really hot, and so my refrigerated type foods have been going bad. So I've just been eating canned foods and ramen. Every once in a while I buy bread, but sometimes bread is even going bad because, yeah, life. So this is to help me stop wasting food. And so I use my pet sitting money to get it because I consider like not wasting food an investment in the future. And I still believe you can start van life without a fridge. I just really hate the whole ice thing, dealing with the water from ice, like all of that. It just doesn't jive with me, and I'm busy enough otherwise that it was becoming sort of a hindrance more than anything to suddenly need ice. And if I do the skip the ice part, which I have done, then I'm relying on the weather never getting so severe that it causes my food to spoil sooner than I would expect it, or even sooner than it has in the past. And so there was a real diversion from showing you those buttons, but that's back on my reasonings. The next thing is DC or AC, which you can set it to depending on what sort of power source you're using to charge this. Which means, yes, we have both DC and AC options. And where the heck are they? I don't... Oh, it's in there. That's right. But, and here's our Coolio fridge instructions. I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, there's shelves in here that are removable if you need something tall, and then there's these things in the door. These are also removable, so if these are not useful, you can remove all of these. And while they look cute, it really makes it look like a mini fridge. A lot of things are really taller than these shelves will allow, but the shelves are removable. These little basket things on the door are removable, or they can stay. For my purposes, I really don't think I'll need 2 trays, but like these things are removable so that you don't have to deal with them if you just want the full use of space in here. Now let's get back to our power sources. You have 2 options with this fridge. This is your AC plug, and this is your DC plug. I'm going to be charging it with, I'm going to be running it with this, and I'm going to put a bunch of warm stuff in the fridge. And then I'm going to leave it in there overnight for the amount of time it takes to max oak. This is just a test to make sure it's actually cooling the way it's supposed to, so that if it's not, I can send it back. And since we are in the future, I would hope I have a functional Coolio fridge in the van at this point. But just to give a full review of it, seeing as I'm using it in my van now, I want to do a test that allows you guys to actually evaluate this as a cheap sort of buy-in into having a small fridge and a small micro camper, even if it's just for weekend trips, unlike me who's living in it full time. And I know there are people like, there's no way this can hold all the food that you need for full time. All I've had before this is a cooler that I had stopped using because weather got so severe, it just felt like it wasn't worth it. So I feel like this is great. I can I don't have a lot of room in my van already, so I'm hoping like this will fit the amount of space I have. And that's my biggest goal for this, is that it fits the amount of space that I have. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about this. Let's go test this thing. Alright, so here's the bread back of the Cooluli. There is a wall outlet right there. It's so nice having a house to actually test this without having to like throw it in a van and not knowing like which, thing isn't working out. So here we go. We're going to plug into the AC, which is 110 volts, by the way. So we've plugged into the AC. I don't know if you can actually stop and do that. There we go. We're going to plug into the AC. We're going to set it to cold. All right. We're going to make sure we're set to AC, so we're set to consume AC power, and we are set to cold, which you probably can't see from all the way back there, but trust me about these buttons. And we're going to plug it in. And we have a green light. That makes me happy. All right. Let's turn this thing around. Okay, so I barely hear anything running. I don't know how good or bad that is. Like, there's definitely a fan running, but I can barely hear it. I don't know if that's good, bad, what's going on here. Let's open the door. Alright, we're going to stick some stuff in here. I'm going to take this out because most of the stuff is tall. As I said, all these things are removable. We got some jelly. We're going to put that right there. We got some... No, we're not going to put that in there. We got some butter. We got a beverage I bought this morning that is no longer cold. I might toss this out. It's been in my cooler for a while. No, it's fine. Let's keep it. Alright. We got some sriracha mayo. Got something in the door. We have 3 items like deep in the fridge. We've taken out one of the shelves. So let's just leave it and we'll have to check on it tomorrow. See how it's doing. Alright, so this video is about the fridge. I had both the Bluetti and the fridge on independent power systems last night. So this is just plugged into the wall, and it was just to let it come on and make some stuff cold. So let's see if things are cold. Let's see. So everything definitely feels cold. This is some jelly that I had in my cooler, and it got warm like 1,000 times. It is in fact cold. The bottle feels cold to the touch. My spray butter feels cold. The sriracha mayo feels cold. So that's good. There's some condensation in the back of the fridge. The Thermoelectric Cooler, actually, because it's not a fridge. So yeah, let's taste this and see how cold it tastes. Like, the bottle feels cold, but after all night, and this was warm when I put it in there. Now, like I said, the intent of this is to keep cold things cold or to keep hot things hot. That's how it's designed. So I'm going against its design to see if it can work for my purposes. So if I get a warm drink at the grocery store, I don't expect to put it in here and have it cold within a few minutes. But, if I buy like 3 and I want a cold drink the next day, then I want something that could give me a cold drink, within a few hours. So, bottoms up. Oh my god, that's actually really cool. I kind of feel bad that I opened this because it was only for a test and I still have my hot tea for the morning, but it's been in there about 9 hours, so like overnight I went to bed. I basically put this in before I went to bed. This is my early morning pajama look. This is really cold, so that's good news. What I'm about to do is unplug the fridge from the wall and plug it into the Bluetti. And we're going to see how well this can handle the fridge. I'm going to try to set an alarm to check on it every couple of hours just to see how much the battery is depleting. But I actually am in the middle of doing the build, so it's going to be kind of a messy test. Hopefully you're seeing this in the future where I've completed this build, and so everything is going wonderful, and both of these things are operating excellently in my van. But I don't know. I'm Dawn from the past. I don't know what happens in the future. Like, I'm not joking. I literally don't know. I'm not even in the house anymore by the time this video comes out. So let's do the test. All right, so first of all, we're going to unplug this from the wall. But before you unplug it, it's a good idea to turn it off so that it's doing no function. We are going to stick with an AC, because we could do AC or 12 volt into here, but we're going to stick with AC. We've unplugged the fridge from the wall. All right, so we've plugged into our port on the back. And for anybody who watched the video about the battery, I've decided to make this the tail end of the fridge video instead of the tail end of the battery video. Okay, so now we need to activate our AC port. AC port is on. According to this, nothing's being pulled because it's not on. I love having a display. Like, it's not the, there's very few things that have displays as good as the Jackery. I really like this one because it's going to give me a lot of information. All right, we're going to turn it on. It's on. All right, so this thing is supposed to have a max 50 watt pull. Right now it's saying it's pulling 60 watts. Which I forgot what the wattage max was for this. Right now it's pulling 60 watts and it's maxing out at 60 watts. So, and it's actually dropping. Nope, it's staying at 60. It's kind of holding at 60. So it looks like this thing is holding at... It's flipping between 59 and 60 watts. All right, cool. So step one was just changing the power source on that fridge. Now that that's done, we're going to take a warm Perrier water and put it in the cooler with the stuff that was already cold. So now we have a warm water in there, and I'm actually going to put this back because I'm going to want this later. If it's not in the fridge when I come to check it later, I drank the rest of it. But it was really cold. Like, I was highly impressed at how cold this is. So if this fridge is working for me right now at that level, like, I'm very happy. All right, so I'm back after a few hours. This thing is still running. It's been just a little bit under 2 hours. And running at 58 watts, which is the wattage of the AC outlet. You can say we've almost depleted the battery in a couple of hours. We're going to switch to DC power and see how that affects it, but we need to charge the battery bank back up entirely and just see how running AC slows or quickens this process. The thing's still running. I mean, the Coolio itself is doing exactly what it said it would do. I think even if this was like they perfectly estimated 50 watts, I don't think it would change much. I mean, honestly, I needed a bigger battery to pull off what I'm trying to do, and I knew that, so I was gambling on something sort of working that, we'll find out. Let's see how bad DC power goes. Alright, so this is the next day. I've charged the battery back up to full. We have activated the DC lights. As you can see, it's really pretty. This lights up when you activate DC. Running this on AC power drained this battery really fast. So I'd like to see what how the discharge is with the battery using the DC power from here. In this case, our DC power is ye old cigarette lighter. So I'm going to plug that in. Get in there. And put the phone down for a second. So we've now switched the Coolio to its DC power cable instead of its AC cable. We've switched the power source to DC and we've turned it off. I always turn it off before switching power sources. Down here, it's hard when you're doing this by yourself. This would have been something useful for my friend to help me out with. Is the DC 12 volt cable is now plugged into this slot. And so, now, I'm going to take this guy. Alright, so we plugged those two together. And we're going to see what the discharge rate is with the DC power cable plugged into the battery. Again, it's at full. I wanted to start this experiment at full, which is why I waited until the next day. So let's turn it on. It is on cold. This one you see these buttons. So there's basically warm, cold, and off. Like I said, this is not a actual fridge, even though it's used that way mostly. It is the Thermo Electric Cooler warmer. So as you can see, on DC power, it's pulling about 44 watts. So it was pulling almost 60 on AC power. The question is, how long can a full battery last when running just on DC power? My goal is to use the least amount of power possible to run my fridge that's not a fridge. So yeah, we're just going to leave this, check on it in a bit, and see if this lasts a little bit longer than trying to run it on AC power. So we'll do a little update on that. So in about the same amount of time as yesterday, running off of the DC power, first of all, we have gone down to maintaining 35 watts for keeping this guy going, and it's still going. So it seems like DC power is definitely pulling less. I mean, not much less. I have 2 little bars there on my power for the power. I really wish they gave me a percentage and not these bars, because it barely means anything, but you know, that's how they designed it. Another weird thing, not really weird, but a little troublesome. So this has been running constantly since I plugged it in, which has been 3 days now to do all this testing. And there's a lot of little condensation in there that I'm going to clean up in a second. Everything in here is still cold to the touch. I drank all my beverages, sorry. It got the beverages cold even when they were in at room temperature. Like by the next day they were cold, and they were cold to the touch even sooner than that. So that was good. The fan has a little hum, but never that intense. When I touched it this morning, it was like slightly warm, but not really that warm. But the thing is, it's going strong. It's keeping stuff cold. So yeah, that part's looking great. The next thing I'm gonna do is just throw this back on power and see how effective pass-through charging is over the next couple of hours. Like with the power still being pulled, how efficiently in a couple hours am I gaining back power on the battery? So I unplugged this for a little bit just to see how warm things would get. And as long as this door isn't being open, like most things that are cold, it's going to hold a lot of cold in there. The reason why this battery was like so depleted, like trying to pass through charge it while it was running the fridge was difficult, because it was pulling almost as much as it was charging, like on a consistent basis. Right now you can see plugged into a wall outlet in a house. We're only having an input of 31 and an output of 41. And usually this drops to around like 35 over time, I noticed. Like it kind of hangs out there. So that's sort of a flaw in my system. I kind of know what the solution is, but you know, this is what I got to work with right now. So this is Dawn from the future, or current. So you just got finished watching Dawn from the Past talk about the Cooluli fridge. To report right now, even with the solar panel, I'm not running the fridge. It's just not worth it. I want to be able to run it all day, and for that, I'm going to invest in a battery. I already have the batteries and parts priced out. It's just not something I can afford right this second. I just put gas in the car, and I just don't have the money to buy even a cheap Walmart battery, and I'd rather get something a little midline, like a little bit better than a Walmart battery. Nothing against Walmart batteries, plenty people have run off them for a long time, but I want to get something midline, even if it's from Walmart, and I've sort of priced out some of the additional parts I need to connect the solar panel to a battery, as opposed to running off the Bluetti, and that should, by all my research and calculations, the battery that I'm looking into should allow this to run all day with some extra energy to spare. And so my plan is to get a battery and hook that to the solar panel. But I just can't afford it like right this second, because it isn't just the battery, it's the battery and some additional odds and end parts. And I could probably do what I need to do for like somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300, because the major cost is the battery, and then everything else is just supplementary pieces. So yeah, it's not running right now. I've run a couple of tests with the solar panel running, just to sort of put the Bluetti through its paces, and it was mostly about I knew this could not run all day, because the Bluetti is only going to give me on a full battery 4 hours of power. And by the time the solar panel isn't getting sun, till the time it really starts like juicing up in the morning, it would completely drain this, to the point running this would keep this from like really getting the best charge it can. It basically would not survive the night. I would have several hours with no refrigeration, and I'd rather just go all in. Like I've not had a fridge the entire time I've been in the van. My cooler was a 15-liter, the cooler that I've gotten rid of. It was a 15-liter cooler. This is a 15-liter fridge. So I have the exact same amount of space, but I don't have to take up any of that space with ice. And that is the goal. So I can live without having a fridge a little while longer. You can still buy refrigerated things as long as it's in small amounts and you're going to eat it within a day or two. But the problem I was having before getting the fridge, and the problem I'm trying to solve, is sometimes you go like to the market and they have those like bags of like pre-mixed salad or something, or even if you buy regular vegetables, because I bought Brussels sprouts the other day, and they lasted about 2 days before they started like looking kind of weird and gross. They were still edible, so I finished them off on the third day, but that's sort of the situation I'm trying to avoid. Like if I buy vegetables or anything that needs refrigeration, I can keep it refrigerated for a few days. Or I can't cook things, not that I do really basic cooking, like boil water or heat it up type cooking, like it's not a lot of elaborate stuff. But if I make something that could be multiple days of a meal, but it would need refrigeration overnight, like I don't have the ability to do that. Even if I'm buying in small amounts, it's like this isn't going to sustain if I don't have a way to refrigerate it. I am not trying to do what people would normally do in a house, which is have large amounts of food in their fridge and like pick up all the 2-for-1 deals. But sometimes I am wasting money when I can't jump on that 3 for $10. Like a lot of the salads I'll see, the little mixed salad bags will be like 3 for $10. But when I can't jump on those deals because I'm afraid of the food going bad, which it has been happening since the temperatures being increasing over the summer. Because I didn't have this problem in the winter. In the winter, even if I didn't buy ice for my cooler, if I sort of made sure like the cooler was in the coolest part of the van, and I ate things within a few days, things were lasting a little bit longer. But since the summer has really hit and we've had some extreme temperature days, like there was no safe spot. This is a cooking metal box, so I need something that's actively like presenting coldness, and I don't want to do ice. Like, I got sick of like ice in that cooler within like the first month of like living in the car. And by the time I got into the van, I was just like over it. I'm like, I'm done. It's not even the expense, because ice doesn't cost that much, but it was like such a freaking chore. Sort of the, getting the ice, and then the ice starts melting, and then you have to get the water out. It was a whole thing, and I hated it, and I was done with it. So I just went, like, I still had my cooler. I never bought ice for it, and I just tried to configure it in a way that it wasn't, in the place in the van where it would get the most sun. And it was fine. Like, everything was lasting fine. There's also, like, not a lot of choice in here because it's so small. And I don't know where else in this configuration I would put a cooler. And so that's why I have the fridge. But I have not been able to use it, so I've had it in the van now for like 2 weeks, and I've had it in my personal possession even longer, and I still can't refrigerate food until I can buy a battery. But it's a solvable problem, and I already know the answers, and I'm completely confident it'll work. It's not even a question of if it'll work, it's when I get the money to make it work. Because the Blue Yeti can run the fridge, it just can't run it for more than 4 hours, minus solar power. Now, when solar is running at peak, it doesn't really matter because I'm getting about 60 watts. And so 60 watts is coming in, only 30 watts is going out. So it's renewing itself like pretty quickly on top of the fridge pool. But like, it's getting close to 6 o'clock, and this is dropping to like less than 20 watts of pull right now, and this would be pulling 30. So this would be, even if this was completely full at the time that this dropped, the watt pull dropped, it still wouldn't make it for much of the night. So it's not worth it to even try to run it. So right now, like, there's pretty much nothing in it except for, well, there's some spray butter that I had and some jelly, and these were in my cooler for the longest time. Well, not this is pretty damn new, but this was in my cooler. I buy this all the time, and it's fine if it's not like super refrigerated. And then I have this onion I bought recently, and I did this mix of like Brussels sprouts and onions and sun-dried tomatoes, and it was really good. And so this is the remaining portion of onion from that little mixture, and then I just baked it in the oven. The oven is great. I need to do a separate review about that. There are some problems, but they're small. But I've cooked it with that oven so much, it's ridiculous. Like, I love that thing. There's things I hate about it, but there's a lot I love about it, and the options it's opened up. So really, there's like nothing in here right now because I can't run this consistently yet, which is disappointing. But like I said, working towards solutions.